Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to listening for. We have the orientations for the Ielts test today. We come up to the last part of the listening sections of Ielts, which is section 4. Right. So here we go. We need further since we have already learned all of the tips and trick of the listening in IELTS in the section 1, section 2, and section 3. What you need to figure out that the section 4 in the IELTS is actually the academic talk, yeah? Usually done by one people or one person only. And this is one of the example of the section 4 in IELTS, like what I have already put in the pictures besides. Now let's come up to the tips and trick on the section 4 since this academic talks, and there are many similar ways of the previous sections, but the one that a little bit different with the section 4, this is more academic compared to the other sections. Of course, because this is academic talk, you need to figure out the first one, the form of the academic talk itself. In academic, we must have introductions, and then there will be a body, or in other words, this also can be said as the main points where the speakers would like to talk about the core discussions about the topic. And then the last part will be examples or the conclusions only. You need to figure out all of the academic things must be flow in good organizations, and therefore this is one of the tips and trick for us to get to know better to the text or the audio that will be given by the um, speakers, and also to study every single things that is given in the questions in the answer sheet. Right, so that's the first one. In the introduction, you have to know what is the content of the introductions, like what you have learned in the academic writing. In introduction, you will have number one, that will be the the introductions of the history, or the general overview related to the topic, or it's just an examples, yeah, of the topic. And then also the last one, that will be thesis statement, which is the main idea of the whole text itself. There will be introductions paragraph or introductions part, and then in the main body or in the main points, that will be the idea that the speakers would like to talk about the topic. So when the you see the title of the text, there will be the topic of the text, and the main point or the main highlight that the writers or the speakers would like to deliver to the audience actually will be put on the body or main points part. And the last part will be the example or just the conclusions, which relates to the introduction, and also the other way to mention the thesis statement. And it will emphasize the purpose of the text, whether the purpose of the text is just to give the details of the topic, or you may know the terms of descriptive, or just to give the some of the hidden requests, or to influence the reader or listener to get agree with the speakers, which is also called as a persuasive text, yeah? And that will be the form of the academic text. You need to know about it. And then the second one, you need to know about the form of the questions, whether the questions will be in form of gap fill or multiple choice. So each of them will have certain types of ways to figure out, because there will be two different ways that you need to do for gap fill and multiple choice. But it doesn't mean that one another is easier than others, but actually all of them have the disadvantages and also advantages when we are dealing with the answer. So when we have a gap fill, meaning that you have to pay attention to the word formations that you're going to write. You need to pay attention to your spelling because only one single letter that you forget will determine the wrong answer of your um, choice. Yeah, and for the multiple choice, with it is true that you just have only one choice, or it is easier for you if you just have, for example, A, B, or C. But the problems is that must be distractors. The distractors will make you confuse which one is the most appropriate answer. And most of the times, because of the distractors is quite many in the multiple choice, most of the test taker um, tend to have a mistake for this kind of question. So it's a bit tricky. So you need to be more precise, and sometimes it requires more skills in synonym, antonym, and also more concentrations required for the listing comprehensions for the multiple choice. And the third tips and tricks for sections 4 is you have to keep following, meaning that you have to focus, to not get distracted to any kinds of the distractions there. So how to keep following the ideas given by the speakers there? Number one, you need to pay attention to the transition signals. So which one is the first main points there, and which one is the second, the third, or the last? You can actually listen carefully for the transition signals. Maybe you will have some, for example, next, moreover, first, second, and so on and so on. Actually, that will help us to get the flow, or to get the ideas to another, yeah, and to still following the run of the text itself until the end of the ideas given by the speakers there. And then the second one, in the following process of the text, you need to pay attention to the distractors. Yeah, so get to know with some of the distractors that is given by the test maker, and it will be very useful for you if you know the distractors, for example, synonym, and also repeatedly mentioned words. Actually, that will be one of these distractors. Yeah, and similar sounds, that will be the distractors that you must pay attention on. And number 4, the answer needs. Yeah, so the answer needs here, in the filling of gap or multiple choice, you will have the answer, and you need to predict what kind of answer that should be given there, or should be chose. Yeah, for example, in gap fill, that whether you need a noun, verb, adjective, or adverb. And also for the multiple choice, what kind of word that actually you are going to put, you are going to choose as the best answer in the multiple choice. If you know, if you can predict that the best answer over that is a noun, that will be easier for you to choose which one is the best answer, and that will be more precise to figure out the best answer when you listen to the audio. And if you have the gap fill questions, of course you have to know about the spelling, and this is require more skills and more attentions when you write down the answer, since you have a very limited time. Okay, go on. The other tips and tricks is always identify the topic. So every time you read, every time you listen, this is what this is one of the most important things here. Try to identify the topic. If there is a kind of title, that will be easier for you to identify the topic. Because why? Activating your schemata or your background knowledge before you read the text questions, or before you listen to the audio, actually really help you to get the idea of the text itself. even though we are not from the same field of knowledge, for example, we are from a language students and the text talking about astronomy or talking about environment, for example, like that. But actually, when we try to predict, when we try to relate the informations given in the text and also information given by the speakers into our previous knowledge, that will be easier for us to understand the text as in the whole. Yeah. So I think this is one of the strategy, not only in reading but also in listening, that you need to activate your schemata or your background knowledge related to the topic. Yeah. You also can see from the title, from the context clues, the form of the text itself, the other words or sentences in the text will give you the sense of the topic that being discussed. Yeah. So all of them will be the clues for you to figure out the topic. If there is no title, you can see the context clues. You can see from the form of the text whether the text is narrative or the text is seems like more academic and so on so on. It will be um, easier to determine. And after that, read the questions first. Try to do this every single time of the test. Yeah, this is a master thing that you have to do in listening. So try to read as fast as possible and try to recognize the questions before you listen to the audio text. And after that, you will anticipate your answer by predicting, oh, whether you're going to need noun, whether you're going to need a verb, and so on and so on, and which one is the best answer among those three or four multiple choice questions. So that will be easier for you. And then after that, number seven, underline the keywords. Right. This is also one of the most important strategy in all listenings. Try to make yourself used to underline the keywords. When you have long sentences, you have to be able to determine which one is the keyword, which one or which are the keywords among all of the words in the sentences. How to solve that problems? Number one, you do not need to know all of the words, of course, but you need to know how to identify the sentence structure. Which one is the subject, predicate, object, adverb, and also the adverb of the sentence. And you need to know about the form of the sentence, whether this is only a simple sentence, compound complex sentence, or a complex compound sentence. So without knowing all of the basic skills of the sentences or words, it's going to be difficult for you to figure out which one is the keyword. So your skills in writings and grammar will help you to have the best keywords. Yeah. Although you don't know the words, but you know this is the key that you need to underline. Right. Number eight, analyze types of the words itself. So like I have mentioned before, when you know the topic, when you read the questions, when you underline the words, and you know the gap fill over there, so you will determine what type of words that you have to put there. That's why I told you before, your grammar class will be very useful for these types of the listening tips and tricks, because you will be able to determine which type of word that you're going to put as the answer on the gap fill, either and also for the multiple choice answer. And the last one is double check. Of course, double checking always one of the requirements, but uh, make it faster, as fast as possible. You have to make sure that your spelling is correct, and your plural, don't forget, if it is a plural, you have to make sure that your nouns over there, that will be added by s ending or es ending. And also your grammar, make sure that when it is a kind of the form of the text is a story, make sure that your words required there as a verb is a verb 2, right? Or verb 3. But if it is fact or general truth, make sure that your verbs, if you're dealing with the verb answer, make sure that your verb since in form of verb one, and look at your subject whether singular or plural. And after that, make sure that if it is a synonym, make sure that you write the correct synonyms required by the questions there. And after that, you are going to be able to answer the questions by checking your spelling, and also make sure that all of the words there would you fill up based on the requirement, whether it's a noun, adjective, adverb, and so on and so on. And all of the punctuations that I gave to you, like a bullets, like a dash, and then also comma, everything's related to punctuations actually will give you a very valuable clue to be able to answer the questions correctly, right? So all of them are some of the examples how to apply all of the tips and trick in the actual test. So you can see that when you are dealing with a test, it is not only depends on one strategy or one tips or trick only. So all of the tips and trick will be useful in the same time. So you must be able to do or to use all of types of tricks in a very short time within only 30 seconds or even 25 seconds. Your how do you call this you are subconsciously use all of the strategy without listing every single strategy that you have already learned one by one, but automatically every single strategy that are already taught during the class are used when you are dealing even for only one questions. It needs a practice, of course. It needs a lot of training to do that in a very short times. Or when we have a training like this, maybe we need 15 to 20 minutes only for a finishing one or two questions. But that will be impossible when we do the real test. Of course, the one that make us get used to all of the strategy is by practicing one again and again. When you are going to have the test soon, at least 3 months before you face the test, you must continuously um, train yourself by having a practice at least once a day for the test. Yeah. Right, I think that's all the examples that I can give to you about the tips and tricks for section 4 in IELTS and how to apply it in the real test. Hope it helps and thank you for your attentions. See you next time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.